Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Build Python 101 Part 1. Hello everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. And I saw some chat, so good afternoon, good evening, good day wherever you are all over the world. I see some really early people and some really late people, and I'm pretty sure you'll be fine today. Everyone's going to have a wonderful time. Hello, welcome. Thank you. Real quick, we're going to get our basic agenda out of the way first. So I'm going to drop into chat our check-in link, which we want to make sure everyone checks in. So you get all your points as well as your swag for this Global Hack Week. So let me drop that into chat. There you go. Make sure you check in at this link right there. It's all in chat. Go ahead and do that if you have not yet. If you have, that's wonderful and it's an amazing start already. Okay, so let's see. Let's get some stuff going, shall we? There we go. Okay, so we're going to start off really quick. This is going to be a 3-part series with the final part ending in us actually building something. I haven't decided. I'm leaning towards a Discord bot because a lot of us utilize Discord, and it's a really fun way to apply Python in a way that you can build a bot for your friends, customize what the bot can do, and so on and so forth. And what's really cool about that is once you built your Discord bot and you verify and everything, you do get an extra badge. I think it's called active developer and so on and so forth. And you get to show off that you are active developer of a Discord bot. But yeah, that is the current temporary plan. Plans might change based off how far we get. We might not end up building a Discord bot, but that is the current plan. So the goal is going to be, we're going to first start off with learning some fundamentals of Python programming. If you're already on this boat, feel free to stick around. We'll hop on a different later part. Our second part will be some applied programming. So we're going to first learn the fundamentals today. Our part 2, we're going to look at some applications, right? Write some basic functions, maybe solve a few basic problems and look at approaches to problems. And then in our part 3, our funnest one is we're going to build together. And the reason why this series is called Let's Build, it's because some of the stuff I haven't done myself. It's on like my bucket list to do, and I get to do it with you guys, which means you get to see me troubleshoot and write code live at the same time. You get to learn along, which is a really good experience to see how someone else might approach a problem. It is also why part 3 is not fully determined yet. It really depends on where we can get, because I don't want to dive too deep into Python with building a Discord bot if we don't get too far. But this is the temporary plan. First, fundamentals for part 1. Second, application for part 2. And third, actual development for part 3. That is the general gist and idea of it so far. If you have not yet, please make sure to check in. I see we have some people joining us, and we're throwing this back down there. So ask me anything in chat. I'm going to actually make it. Maybe I should not make it so it scrolls. So it's a pretty solid thing. So just, okay, that sucks. Never mind, it's scrolling. Okay, cool. Yeah, so ask me anything, anytime. Feel free to stop me. We'll be slowed down to take any questions and so on and so forth. But with that being said, if you have not met me, I'm Kev. I'm a coach here at Majorly Hacking. I use the he, him, his pronouns. I do a lot of different things, so feel free to talk to me about anything. I know some of you guys connected with me on social media. If you do, here's a reminder. Just mention where you met me, or else sometimes I get a lot of invites and I just ignore them. So if you are connecting with me, this is a really quick reminder. Just to mention that you met me at this hackathon or something along those lines. So I know to not just ignore your requests, because I do get a lot of them sometimes, and I'd like to make sure I get and accept the hackers' requests and stuff like that. But yeah, with that being said, I'm also trying wearing this hat in different ways. Sometimes I don't wear a hat, sometimes I do. It's the first time wearing the hat on stream, but well, I mean this way at least on stream. But yeah. Okay, so really quick. So a schedule overview for today. We're going to do some basic setup for success. What is Python? Types of programming languages. Then we're going to go into coding and Python basics. Today, we will be needing some fundamentals for, I forgot to do that. Give me 1 second. Time to mute my phone so you guys don't hear my notifications. There we go. Now that's muted. That's all good. And for the bonus is we're going to get some background music loaded up. So if you're here chilling, you can just listen to me talk and enjoy some background music. If it's too loud, please do let me know. I'll lower it. And with that being said, if you want to change in the background music, you just have to say one thing, and I'll go ahead and change up the background music. But I don't remember all the time because I get trapped in talking. But I do have a few tracks here. I wish I had more variety. I don't. But yeah, whenever you guys want a new flavor of background music, just shout it out in chat, and I'll make sure to get us something new. We're gonna start with this one. It's called Corporate. I have no clue why. I also can't hear the background music, so it doesn't pipe through my microphone. But yeah, yay Python! I know, I'm super enthusiastic for this one. I'm gonna type out as we go along, so I'm gonna pause right there and continue on the next slide. So first thing we're gonna get on get started is setting up Replit. If you don't remember, if you attended my yesterday session on Git, we talked about what Replit is. Replit essentially is the online IDE sandbox, which is a wonderful way to get started with learning any sort of technology stack, because it hosts a lot of them. I'm gonna drop the website for Replit real quick. Give me 1 second. Grab that link. I'll show you real quick. Oh, we have to drop the link. So Replit is now in chat. If you don't have an account, create an account. And then I'm going to switch over to this view real quick. Whoop. There we go. So this is Replit. Replit is essentially an online IDE and sandbox that allows you to get started with coding without having to do all the pre-setup for everything. And what's really cool is when you click Create Replit, it supports all sorts of coding stacks or technology like Python, Node.js, C, whatever you want to learn, C++, Python with Turtle, Python with, if I just do Python, right? It has multiple Python. If you're playing Python, Python bot is, and also pre-installs libraries for you, right? And you'll see a reason why we're gonna start with Python, but you can see how powerful a lot of these are. And people can build templates for things like you can do ChatGPT stuff or GPT stuff in general and all sort of stuff, and Pygames and so on and so forth. We're gonna go over a lot of this in a bit, but Replit is just an online IDE. You can think of it as a quick sandbox. You spin up, test ideas. Sometimes I might spin up a Replit to test a quick code thing and then spin it back down. It's easy. You can do it from anywhere. If you're on a phone, you can code in Replit. If you're on your iPad, you can code in Replit. It's really just a wonderful tool for you to quickly get started. And I know Replit has sponsors before. I can't recall if they're sponsors this time, but Replit is definitely a huge supporter of students in using and beginner learners. Yeah. So let me close that out, and we're going to hop back over to our slide. All you got to do right now is go to replit.com as I'm talking to generate an account. We'll come back to Replit later as we need it. But first, we're going to move back over to here. So now we have Replit set up, mostly set up. We're going to do the final setting up when we actually need it. But for right now, we're going to move along. Okay. So the first question was really just understanding what is Python, right? It's hard to work with a tool, also know the advantages and disadvantages of a tool for understanding what the tool is. So Python is a type of technology tool. It is a high-level general purpose programming language. What that means is there are multiple layers of abstraction that makes Python really easy to use. So there's some stuff that is in coding, programming / computer science that are taken care of by Python in the background where you never see. And there's multiple layers of that. The higher level a language is, the more level or layers of abstractions they have been built in. So Python is a high-level language, which means it's generally really easy for beginners. It is a general-purpose programming language, which means that you can use it for multiple things. And it is used widely as many things. It can be used for scripting. It can be used for web development with frameworks such as Flask and Django. You can use it for scientific computing with libraries like Matplotlib, with like pandas, with like, what is that math library that's slipping my mind right now? You can use it for data analysis. Again, you have like pandas for graphing and all sort of stuff. There's one that's really slipping my mind. NumPy, there you go, thank you. There you go. Shout out to chat. I wish I also been given the authority to give out, what do they call it, swag drops or something? Surprise or something. Unfortunately, I don't. They should give me a few to give out during streams, but I don't, unfortunately. But yes, thank you for your answer. Appreciate it. Also, you can use artificial intelligence stuff, which are things such as you have TensorFlow libraries in Python. You have, what are other one? Open AI stuff. I forgot what it's called. There's one called, I think it's like Open AI Gym, I think. You have Torch. Yeah. All sort of Python library. Look at that. Avid Python user right there. Knows everything. I generally use Python for a lot more automation stuff, which is also super doable in Python because there's just a lot of APIs, which stands for Advanced Programming Interface. If I get any of my acronyms wrong, please feel free to correct me. There's just so many acronyms. I don't believe that. You're dropping all these Python libraries like you know them top of your head. I don't remember some of this stuff. I have personally used Python in artificial intelligence, briefly, data analysis, scripting, automation, a bit of scientific computing. Python is also pretty often used in high performance computing, just because it's so simple for researchers to pick up. And I've started using it for a bit of web dev, didn't get as far, but that's a whole different story for another day. So it was released in 1991, so it's a pretty new language. Okay, it's not like new, it is like 20, if I can do math, it's like 22 years old, almost 23 years old. Yeah, I can drink, so Python language are allowed to drink at this age, or at least in most places. There might be longer drinking limits I'm not aware of, but yeah, so technically, not that you should, we shouldn't, no stance on that general topic. Just know Python is around 22, 23 years old. And if I math that wrong, feel free to correct me. Hello, welcome to the chat. We're going to go over Python. Today is going to be Let's Build Python 101. It is really simple and easy to use, is why it's such a great language for beginners. It is clear, concise, it has good syntax. It has an emphasis on readability. It has an emphasis on abstraction, on harder level concept, away from the beginner user, so you don't have to deal with some of that stuff. It is easy to understand and maintain. You'll get to see why really shortly. With that being said, let's go. What type of language is Python? We learned that there's such thing as high-level languages, low-level languages. There's also different types of languages. The type of language Python is, it's an interpreter language, which means code is executed line by line rather than being compiled in machine code all at once. And if you don't understand that, you don't have to. If you do, great. If you don't have to. That was more just a fact for any of computer science major students, or computer science adjacent major students, or even high school computer science program, whatever. If you're into computer science or some adjacent field, that was really one for you. It is generally easy to write and test code quickly because it's interpreter language. That means there is an interpreter you can actively interact with to get results. It has large standard library. What the standard library is essentially is already packaged up functionality out there for you to just start to use, and so you have to rewrite everything yourself, right? So for example, I can, like calculator example, right? So I can write a calculator. I need to build out like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division functionality but there's probably already a standard library that has all that built in. Well, it's already built into Python, but if there wasn't, there might be a standard library for it, right? A better example maybe like we talked about like doing some AI stuff, right? So if you want to do AI stuff, you don't have to put out the whole entire AI code base. You can just start utilizing things like, what was I saying? TensorFlow and so on and so forth as a library, and continue building from there. Standard library that allows you to work with files, process data, interact with the web. So like request library allows you to do some web scraping if you're into that, or like look at websites, grab some data, so on and so forth. And then many third-party libraries available for Python. This is so standard library is all the standard stuff that comes with Python. Then you have third-party library. I kind of mixed them together and gave it one. Essentially, there's a lot of libraries, both standard and third parties, that allow you to utilize with Python. Next slide. So we're going to go over some basics of everything. Feel free to stop me at any time. We might break out Paint. We might not. I'm still debating on that one, but I'm ready to break out Paint if we need to. But with that being said, what is a data type? So if you are new to computer science and programming, this is really for you. So data type is just a classification of data. You can think of data as just anything, right? Everything is data, essentially, right? I can be represented in multiple types of data points. My background for every data point, everything on my screen for everything in the world can generally be quantified in some sort of data or data value. A data type is essentially the domain that data is quantified in. And what that means is it determines essentially the type of operators that can be performed on that data, right? So if something's numeric, you can do like things like addition, subtraction. If something's like letters, you can probably also do addition, subtraction through special means, but that requires a type of encoding or decoding or translation or detranslation, right? If you can't generally add letters without some intermediate step in between. And that's the type of operation determined by the data type or the domain the data sits in. How data is stored in memory, right? So essentially how we actually keep track of the data, the size of that data, the format, the range of values it's allowed to be, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of different built-in data types, we're going to go over that later. I was going to start dealing with them, but I have a whole slide for that, so why do that? We also have a huge range of value. Oh, I already put that. Oops, skip a point. Creation of custom data types, right? So you can have the built-in data types, which we'll go over. You can always make your own data type. Essentially, a data type is just a domain you're defining as a data, right? I can make a data type. It will be stupid, but I can call it coaches, right? And I can put defining factors of coaches, right? So maybe some defining values, of coaches is like you can be our names and so on and so forth. Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome and joining us. Hope you're ready to learn some Python. Super fun days. Again, for anyone, feel free to stop me at any time, ask any questions. More than happy to always answer questions. And with that being said, I'm going to take a sip of water. That's funny. I realized huge mugs like this are so hard to drink from. Because when I get to the bottom, I have to essentially tilt the whole mug. Okay, cool. Okay, and important for writing, and data types are important for writing correct and efficient code because you don't want to attempt operations on things that are not designed for specific things. So that's the reason with something you might custom data types, right? With custom data types, you're able to do a lot more to that data because you define what it is. So sometimes the data type that you might not find the data type you want in the built-in ones, you can always write your custom ones. It also avoids errors from using incompatible types. For example, we talk about strings, right? If I try to add an integer to a string or a number to a letter, right, it doesn't work out and stuff. So data types allows us to make sure we classify data properly in its proper domain and that the program or the interpreter knows what domain it sits in. So when it performs operation, it knows how to handle those operations. And if there is operation that's not allowed to be performed, it knows how to tell you that's not allowed to be performed. Okay. Next up, our first break into data type things. We have numbers, right? We all know and love numbers, right? Everything in the world around us is quantified in some sort of number way. And that is one of the huge concepts in AI, if you're interested, right? It is essentially you can quantify anything in number and then train off those numbers. But the data types that represent numbers in Python there's a few. So we're going to talk about 3 of them. Now we're not going to use a lot, not a lot. We're not going to use everything we talk about because some of this stuff is generally not very often applied. And the reason I say this is complex numbers. Unless you're doing some really weird math things, you probably won't be using complex number, but the first 2 are really important. So the first type of number, data type we have, is called integers. Integers are essentially your whole numbers, right? So that is numbers that are either positive or negative that has no fractional parts. So your example is like -1, 5, 535, -2,444, 0, right? Those are all positive or negative numbers without a fraction component. And do not ask me about 0. This is a whole nother debate if we want to talk about that. And I'm not ready to debate math with anyone in chat yet. Floats. Floats are the same thing except for it's numbers with fractional components, right? So it's everything in between our whole numbers. So like 3.141592653589793, like pi, right? Pi is a float or a floating point number. So it has a whole part and a fractional part. And that together makes what we call a float or floating point number. And that they can also be both negative and positive. Next thing we have is complex numbers. Complex number, if you took any, I think probably algebra, you started learning about complex number. I will not go too in depth with complex number because it doesn't super apply to us about what we're gonna do and so on and so forth. But complex number are like, it has a real part, which is the real part or the real number, and then the imaginary part, which is what makes it a complex number. So you have like -1i or 2 + 5i. Don't worry about it. If you've never seen that before, don't worry about it. Almost never going to be used. Okay, yes. No math today. I love math, except for my personal foundation in basic math, that's all. My theoretical math is better than my foundation in basic math, but that's all different story. Okay, next one we're talking about is strings. Strings are just sequence of characters or sequence of letters. Characters are just letters, right? And characters are generally not a type of data type, but we generally don't just utilize characters. So at this point, most of us, especially in high level language, don't have to worry about it. About characters, they're just called strings. Just know that letters are technically a data type, or not a data type. Letters represented as a data type will be known as characters, and a sequence of characters make up what we call strings. Yeah, I don't know about how funny that is, but that's okay. So strings are generally enclosed in what we call single quotes, or just one quote, or double quotes. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but don't mind me. So for example, hello world. You can see that is enclosed in double quotes, and what's up is enclosed in single quotes. And you can see a whole string like hello world in double quotes, is technically just a string consisting of character, which are just data type representation of letters. So what that is essentially just H quoted, E quote, I quote, L, I can't spell, HELLOWORD, RLD quote, and that's all it goes together. Are numbers in form of string still strings? Yes. If you put numbers within quotes, they're just a string. And how that works is, if you ever heard of it, I don't want to get too deep into it, but if you're a computer science or you want to get into computer science, they are just, and strings are essentially just actually numbers, right? The computer only thinks in binary numbers or in numbers in general. So not even talk about binaries. Computer only think in strings. And yeah, sorry, I'm reading chat. Think in numbers. So strings are essentially just each actual character translate to actually a number, and that's how they keep track. And there's a whole translation process. But in the long story short, numbers can be represented as a string. So if you do put quotes around a number, that becomes a string. If you don't do quotes, it's actually a number. Yes, good answer. Thank you for answering in chat. The slides. Is there a link to the present yet? The slide. Yes, I do have to get up all the slides. I will get that up. I can't release this one. I do need to make a few edits, and then I will make sure to release the slides for sure this time, as well with yesterday's slides. After the stream, I'll get them all packaged. If I don't, feel free to ping me in the server. I give you permission, but only one of you. If I see more than one of you pinging me, I'm gonna lose my mind. But the slides will go out later today. I just need to double check and make sure things are good. They'll go out. And worst comes to worst, you can always come back to the recording, rewind, take a look, so on and so forth. But they'll get out today. If I don't, you can bother me to a degree, limited degree though. Okay, any other questions on strings? If not, we're gonna move on. Well, I'm gonna move on if the questions can ask. So Boolean. Boolean is essentially just the idea of two really fundamental values in, I don't want to say in life, but just in general in any concept, right? So represent only two values, true or false. It's essentially like a checkbox, right? Checkbox operates off of Boolean. What else operates off of Boolean? Like if you select something, right? It's like you select it, you don't select it, right? It just boils down to two values of true and false, and that's all what Boolean is. It's the concept of true or false, or it's a concept of a data type that stores only true, where it's false. Only those two values. And it's generally used to express logical values, right? Because true and false would be, like, for example, I might ask you, is your name Kevin? There's only two logical values here. It's either true, my name is Kevin, or false, my name isn't Kevin. And for me, it's false. I'm just kidding. It's definitely true. So it helps you evaluate logical expressions, which we'll go over later, so don't fret. We have controls the flow of program based on condition, right? That's what they generally used in. Thank you. I appreciate the false. But yeah, so it controls the flow of program based on condition, right? So we'll get to see that a bit later, but Boolean can also be used for a type of code execution, or the way of code execution function. We'll talk about it later as well. It's essential for decision making in logical condition, which is kind of the same idea, right? So like, oh yeah, for example, I might say, oh, are you a student? True or false. If you say true, I might say, okay, what is your ID? But if you say false, I might not ask you for a student ID, so on and so forth. It combines using logic operators, yada. And here's the cool part about Boolean is Boolean can be represented in any data type, data type values. So for example, the one that is most common is Boolean's default, which is true, false, and it's just typed in as that itself is Boolean value without any strings, and it will accept. But then also on top of that, each data type also has a representation of true and a representation of false as a Boolean value. So for Boolean itself, you just have the keyword true and the keyword false. But if you're working with string, any empty string is considered false. Any string with any amount of characters or letters is considered true. 1 is considered true, where any number that's not 0 is considered true. 0 is considered false. What is default in Python? I don't know what you necessarily mean by default. Oh, do you mean like when you create a value? We'll go over that. That ties in a whole nother concept, which we'll cover later. But I think I know what we're talking about. There's no default, and you'll learn why in a second. Java, great. Java's not my strong suit, so I'm going to move past that. You probably know more about Java than I do. I don't do Java coding generally. We then have lists. So lists are just the idea of you can think of like a checklist, right? It stores a collection of elements. What elements are just different data types or different data values, right? So commonly used as a data structure. All data structure is a structure that stores data. So list is just a data structure. In other words, list is just a structure that stores data. Elements of the list are just data points. So lists are ordered. That is key. What that means is elements in the list have a specific order, right? So it's like when you write down a checklist and you wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a specific order. Maybe that's the order of points needs to be done in, or the order of, I don't know, errands you have to run in for optimized travel or something, right? And the order starts at 0 for the first element, and then it goes up from there. And lists are also mutable. We're going to talk about the idea of mutable and immutable later. Not important right now. Just keep in mind they're mutable. And all that means is you can edit values in the list. We'll talk about all later. And realistically, if you're not going to be a computer science major, the keyword is you can be a developer without being a computer science major. If you're not going to be a computer science major, this whole idea of mutability probably does not matter to you. List in Python uses the square bracket to declare a list. So essentially just square bracket, and we'll take a look at that later. So don't fret. And it's separated with commas for each element over a comma. In the example, you can see it's bracket. Those are my elements, separated by comma. And the reason the elements can be any data type is simply one specific data type, unlike some programming languages. If you're more familiar with the idea of arrays, which is really similar, some programming languages declare an array to store a certain type of data type. But in Python, you can store anything in the list. It could be a pro and it could be a con, realistically. There is pros and cons. Next up is tuples. Basically, the same thing as a list. I wrote a lot of things on this slide. All you have to know is really the same thing as a list. It's initiated, kind of. That is the really primitive idea of mutability, which is can be edited, or immutable cannot be edited. But it goes a lot deeper in terms of what that actually means. But we're not going to get too deep into that for right now, so I'm going to push that aside. But thank you for that insight. But with that being said, so tuples are immutable. Once the element's been created, it cannot be deleted or modified. And it's really great to store things you don't want people to modify, right? So for example, I might make a tuple of call it like student essential information, right? I never want to maybe change the student ID. So maybe I'll store that in like a tuple instead of a list, or maybe I'll throw a tuple in a list, and so on and so forth. You basically just keep things that you don't ever want someone to be able to change or accidentally change in a tuple. And if you want to change a tuple, you would just create a whole new tuple and you wouldn't modify a tuple. That's a really big difference. And it's also generally, it can store a combination object. All that means you can store any type of data type. It's kind of like list. It's commonly represented as a collection of related values that should never be modified once they're defined, kind of like what I said already. And you can see how it's defined. It's like tuples are immutable. That is correct. And the next we have set. This is this is the reason why this slide is so short. Is most of us will never touch set ever. If you are ever taking something like theoretical math or like what is it called? Discrete structures or data structures, you might come across set. But outside that, it's almost never touched. Set essentially is an unordered collection of unique elements defined using curly braces or set. It has to do a lot with set theory. Leak code requires this. Are you talking about set? Yeah, because set is unless again you go into computer science professionally, you rarely touch set. But set is a type of data structure that offers a way of optimization. All right, because the key thing is they're unordered collection of a unique value. Unique value is the keyword, so think about it. Essentially, I can't add the same value in it over and over again, so it's really nice to have and easy to use. If you're studying for leak code stuff, you do need to know advanced search stuff, so that's a whole different ball of warm. Maybe we'll do a leak code 101 on stream. I really dread that a tad bit because you're like under the pressure, and I do poorly under pressure in slide coding too. But maybe we'll do a leak code of chat where we all like pull up leak code problem, all type it up, and then maybe I'll bring a few people on stream, explore it and stuff. But yeah. Okay, cool. So next thing, dictionaries. Dictionary has been talked about by multiple. What am I saying? Dictionary are represented in multiple different languages by something else. Dictionary is the unique, well, it's not unique, but it's the way Python goes about it. Another way, if you come from a different programming language, is that dictionaries are your hash maps. Right, yes. Hash maps, yes. Essentially, it hashes a value to It's another concept. Not gonna get too deep into it, but for our beginners, just know dictionary is a data type. It's an unordered collection of key value pairs. The key word here is key value pairs, which means you provide dictionary a key. They give you a value. It's like if I open an actual dictionary, right? I look for the word. It gives me the definition, so on and so forth. And there we go. I have it there. It's also known as arrays, maps, and hash tables, or also hash maps. But yeah, keys must be unique and immutable, which means that it must be unique and can't be changed. And the whole idea is that is like if I put in the dictionary, let's say I put a placeholder in the dictionary of the word apple, and I can change it all the time. I'm changing the definition of the apple, which is not true. So the keys for your key value pair in the dictionary must be unique and must be immutable, because I can have two definitions for apple technically. So that's just how we made English, but that's a whole different problem. Let's go real quick. Hash maps. Whoa. Sorry, I had to mute for a second. I accidentally triggered my Alexa. But hash map, hash table objects, yes. Well, there exist other things like Java, C, C++, so on and so forth. But yeah, JavaScript is become JavaScript. Those are some ways of talking about it. We have our dictionary similar to sets in way we're completely different. They're completely different. Sets are not key value pairs, right? Sets are just essentially a uniquely ordered list is what set is. So like, well, they're not ordered. They're unique list. So set is essentially just a collection of objects that is every object in there is unique, and that's it. And it's grabbed through. It's not ordered, but it is ordered as in like 0 is the first object in the set, second, third. It's same thing with like a list. All you can think about a set essentially is a list, but you can only have unique objects in the list. And dictionaries are key value pairs, where you give it a key, you get a value out of it. Is dictionary a type of set? Oh no, you're getting into broad conceptual things. Let me think. You're asking me if a dictionary is a type of set. If I define set as unique or key value pairs, is a dictionary a type of set? It shares elements of a set. I wouldn't say a dictionary is a type of set because I can have key leads to the same value, but that's a whole broader question that you have to break it, because remember, computer science is built on math. You have to break out a lot of math theories and math definitions and look at computer science definitions and mash them up. But I'm just going to say dictionaries are also known as maps, arrays, and hash maps, and they have shared properties of sets. I can't say for sure if dictionary is a type of set. I want to say no, because dictionary is a whole different type of data structure than a set is, but they share similarities. Yes, sets don't have. So like my point is, I don't know if it's like you know how like what are that? A square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. I don't know if it's one of those situations. I'm not gonna get into it. They're similar but different. Yes, for sure. I like that. Okay, so mathematically, dictionary is a type of set, I guess, because I don't actually know the mathematical definition of a dictionary. I think that is correct. And Pythonically, dictionary is not a set. There you go. Well, that is true. I mean, as a data structure, they're not the same, but yeah. Thank you for the clarification. Moving on. Oops, too much. So how to check data types, right? So now we talk about the importance of data type. Now we need to know how to check actual data types. And after you check actual data type, you just do type and the value. I know to tell you what data type it is, and this is really important because we're going to go over this concept. I don't think I have it later. I think I cover it later, but before that, let's get some hands-on exercise in data types. So I'm going to first boot up my replet, which will whoop. We're going to first create a new replet. If you haven't made an account, please create an account. If you have, we'll just make a basic Python replet. I'm going to call it, well, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it applesauce. I'm going to call it let's build. BUILD Python 101. There we go. I'm going to create the replet. It's going to make everything for us. And again, like before, we're going to ignore everything. We just want the shell or the console either work, because console is essentially just a Python interpreter, I think, if I'm not wrong, because they open it as a Python interpreter. Yeah, okay. So you can either use a console or you can use a shell, and shell you would just run Python 3, which is basically saying open a instance interpreter for live interaction. So this is the same thing as a console. You can see that it's essentially, you can use either one, up to your choice, whatever floats your boat. I'm gonna stick with the console, and then I'm gonna do it. Oh, I can't clear it. Oops, I forgot this is a console. So I'm actually gonna exit. I might break out, but I actually don't know what happened if I try to break out the console. Okay, just as it died. Okay, I can't clear it. Alright, there's a trash can thing clears it. Okay, there we go. So we cleared it. Okay, cool. Yeah, but exit doesn't actually do anything because we're kind of locked in the console for the console. But the reason we bring this up is we're gonna go through, and you can see you can live work with Python in live interactive interpreter. So we're gonna first look at create some integers, right? So we talked about how these data types are created. So first thing I'm going to do is type, right? I showed you this type. If I give it a 1, which we know is an integer, we're going to hit enter. It says it's a class integer. If I do type, and let's say I do 1.1, it's no longer going to tell me integer, but what's going to tell me it's the class float. If I do type and I do 1 plus 5i, it's going to say, oops, oopsie daisies, I forgot if that is actually typable. It should be, but I think you might be right somewhere. Let me check it. I'm gonna just make it 1i. Okay, so complex numbers. Can't remember how to use them in Python because I don't use them that often. They exist in Python. Don't mind me here. I'm gonna clear that. Try again. So we're gonna ignore a complex number. I'm gonna do 1, unless someone knows. I don't think so. I mean, I can try that. Let's see. If I do type, I'm going to do 1 plus, you think it's plus I5. Nah, I think it's because if you reads it more than, if it reads spaces, it tries to read it and it goes, it reads and it goes like, wait, there should be a space here. So, but yeah, so I'm going to do type. I'm going to do 1. I'm going to do type. I'm going to do 1.1. You're never going to use things, so we're going to leave it. I can't remember. I haven't worked a complex number in so long. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think so. If I remember correctly, I think I is equal to -1. But again, I is not gonna be equal to -1 here because we use I for other things, right? As a string, we can use I as a variable and so on and so forth. So it won't be equivalent here. If you want to look up, I know Python can handle complex numbers. You might want to do some additional research on that. Oh, is it J? I think you're right. Oh, I might be just crazy. Type 1 plus 5j. There we go. Thank you. That's amazing. You're so right. I totally forgot that because I don't ever use that. Or complex 1.5. Okay. See, I'm telling you, how are you guys telling me you're new to Python? There's so many Python experts in the chat. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, today's session is canceled. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. But yeah, thank you. This is all cool stuff. This is why I love having advanced tool with us as well. I sometimes have my brain freeze. But yeah, so you can see, so instead of I, it's J. I forgot. In mathematical, use I, but since I is used a lot in loops, so I think Python went with J, which I should remember that. Don't know why I did. But yeah, okay, so we're going to do type, right? We're going to do a string real quick, right? Double quote, it'll say it's a string. If I do type, I do single quote. I'm going to put a letter in between, but regardless, it's a string. I'm going to do type, and we're going to do type. We're going to do brackets, which is a list. We're going to do type, and we're going to do parentheses, which is a tuple. We do type, and we do curly braces. It will tell you this is a dictionary. If I do type, if I do just true, it'll tell you it's a Boolean. If I do type and I do false, it'll tell you it's a Boolean as well. Look at that. All the type we covered. If my brain still functions, I'm not missing anything. I don't think so. Oh, sets. I am missing sets. What was sets represented as? Yeah, I can't recall. I forgot. Let me think. I also really use sets. I know you can just do set is what I usually do. I forgot there is the thing for it though. Let me check real quick. Oh, it is curly braces, but done differently than dictionaries. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just you don't do it as a key value pair, so I'm gonna have to do type, and I can't just leave it empty. So just this, they think it's a dictionary, but if you do it as with values in it, it will say it's a set. Which actually, I'm pretty sure if you'll see this later, but I shouldn't have done that because that's a unique values, right? But that whole declaration method is what the set does. But okay, cool. So now we play with this. We're going to connect all this dot later, so don't worry. But we're just going to show you real quick all these types exist. Yeah, I know. You could do that. Okay, I'll do that. I was thinking about doing that, but I was like, it's okay. There we go. Okay, we're gonna move back over to, unfortunately, not the string. The point of tracks is that we get to break beginners into everything, which means there's gonna be a lot of learning things. And after all the learning happens, a building will start occurring really towards the end of the track. So again, if you missed it, this stream is going to be a lot of fundamentals and learning. Feel free to stick around, leave as background noise, hop in, answer some questions, jump in the chat like you've been doing already. Then the second stream is going to be some application. And the third stream is we're going to start building something. And for that one, we're going to build something I never even built before. And so you get to live build with me and so on and so forth. Congratulations, welcome to computer science on speedrun. I do that a lot. I try to cover a lot of content really quickly. But the good news is you can ask live questions, and it's almost like a one-on-one because generally there's like 5 people that ask questions. I can generally answer most of them. And there's a track, so it's like a whole computer science class in like 2 days. And a lot of this, I take my experiences in learning computer science, which has classroom experience and so on and so forth, and put them all together. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah, no, you have a head start with me. I didn't start coding or programming until I started university, which is a really unique thing, especially for people who should be generally invested in this field. It was, which editor it was. If you're asking what am I in, which editor, which it is, was, which editor is it? I'm confused. Are you asking me what am I coding? I'm coding in Replit, which is just the IDE sandbox. Okay, cool. Thank you, chat, for answering that question. I was confused for a second because there is editors, and I don't know. I wasn't sure what you were talking about. But I'll drop the Replit link again. If you don't have one, make a Replit account. It's a really nice online IDE that does a lot of setup for you. They create sandbox environment essentially for you to be able to quickly edit. Great. I love teaching with Replit. It's great. Okay, cool. Moving on. We looked at some data types. Now we're talking about values, right? So now we have data types, and we know they are essentially the domain where the data sits in that defines some roles and regulations for that data. Next, we have values, right? Values are the actual data, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is values that are allowed in the domain of integers, right? And 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 2.3, 2.5, 6.9 are floats or values in the data domain of floats, and so on and so forth. But yeah. That's what values are. We're gonna go over some. Oh, I have a whole slide on it. I don't remember this. Okay, so basic building blocks of data can be assigned to variables or passed in as arguments of functions. Don't worry about functions. Don't worry about arguments. We'll go over that all later. Values can take various forms, such as any type of value, right? Of any of the data we talked about. I apparently listed a lot of these. Not gonna go over all of them. They're fundamental elements of any programming language, not even just Python. Don't know why I wrote Python. Used extensively in data manipulation, control flow, and other aspects of programming. Control flow is the word I was looking for earlier. So there's a feature for control flow. If we have time, we're going to go over it. So there's slides made up for a certain amount of content. If we have extra time, I'm going to break out paint or we're going to whiteboard like we're in a classroom. But yeah. Moving on past values. Python basic variables, right? This is the important part. If you take any math class, you should already have a pseudo understanding what variables are. If you think of any other programming, variables are fundamental of any programming class, knowledge, etc. So this is amazing. We're going to move on. Also, I just want to bring up, this was just in my mind for a second. I don't know how people stretch this information. I just want to say this, like, if you're telling me your course only, your entire year only went over everything we went over, like, they either have to go super in-depth or, like, they're talking, I don't know. This baffles me a tad bit because I think this is, like, so little information. Given I'm not going into the deepest of every topic, but like you don't go into that depth to start programming. That was just in my mind for a second. Sorry, sidetracked. Back to the topic at hand. Variables are given names to a memory location where the data is stored. Don't worry about memory location. Just remember, variables is a name that stores data. You assign a data to a variable, and you can then use that variable throughout your code. And wherever you see that variable, that represents that data. It's a word. I have that in the next line. It's a way to refer to a value by a name that can be used later in your code and programming. And you don't need to declare the type of variables, right? oh, this is a Python thing. Is this why I was saying it's really important to be able to understand how using the function type is because in Python you actually don't declare a type variable. If you come from any other programming language or some you do, you might, for example, in Java, in C, C++, almost every other language, you have to tell it what variable type it is, right? You would have to say, I want to make an int variable, or I want to make a string variable. In Python, this is the Wild West. The variables are not transparent, they're not translucent, they are really free. They can become anything they want, which is crazy. What that essentially means is like a variable you just put the name out, you set equal to a value, and that variable will assume the data type of that value. And whenever you give a different value, it assumes the data type of that new value. Is why you having the type variable is really important in Python because you might want to be able to check what happened, right? You can accidentally name a variable the same thing, right? So maybe I made a variable called temp. Horrible name for a variable, but let's say I do. I make a variable called temp, and then I maybe use it, assign it to like 1 at first, right? And then I thought I'm just want to use temp again. I use temp and I send the string, and it's like now the data type's changed, and Python doesn't throw an error anywhere. But maybe you thought you were still using temp for a number, and you can be coding later on trying to do integer operations on a string, which will go, no, this can't work, right? That whole idea of domains and operation living in those domains, right? But the pro of this is everything has a pros and cons, right? Which means you're really fluid, right? You can generate a few variables and use them for your code by modifying it. If you know what you're doing, that's perfectly fine. If you don't know, I really recommend setting a value, a variable to a data type until you're used to it. If you're more advanced, you can technically use a variable and then have it be lucid, I guess, and you can have it translate between the different domains. Just when there's troubleshooting, that could be one of the reasons you might cause yourself problems down the line. Okay, cool, yeah. So it allows assigning of different data types to a single variable because there we go. So the reason why I have this written here, it's a dynamically typed language, which essentially is what I was talking about, how it infers its actual data type through the variable through the value that's stored in the variable. Blah, 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 la, 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 because it's defined at runtime, hence why, yeah. Okay, cool. Benefits of dynamic, I have this all written down, I didn't even remember, I just been going off the top of my head. So benefits of dynamic typing is more flexibility, easier to write. Negative, you never know, that's not the right no. No one called me out on that yet. It's never KNOW when a variable might have been reused or changed. For example, x equal 5, x and they also equal hello. Do you guys want to hear a funny story? I do have a really funny story. I don't know if you guys are interested in getting sidetracked. I'm going to take a sip of water. Oh, whatever. I'm going to tell you the story anyway. Just for a little break, for people to absorb some of this content. For the longest time, you know the English word which, right? Like WHICH, like which sauce would you like? Or which apple do you prefer? Which fruit do you prefer, right? That which. I think up until like 8th grade, in like the U.S. education system. Oh, is fireworks going up? Oh no. Okay, we'll run through this quickly, get through today's content. Yeah, we can go see fireworks. But real quick, end of story. I always spelled it WITCH, like the witch that rides a broom and like has a cauldron and stuff. And no one has ever corrected me on anything until this. In 8th grade, I was working on this presentation in like a group, or for some odd reason, in like a computing, like it's not computing, like computer science class. Like, oh, you know how like they used to have computing class to teach you how to use computers before it was like a really wild thing. So like this peer or this other student looked at me as I typed in WITCH, going, "What are you doing?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "That's not the right witch. That's like the riding a broom on Halloween witch, and not the WHITCH. WHICH witch." And no one corrected me. Like, I've written papers with that. I guess no one has ever corrected me. I've never noticed someone correct me. And that, like, blew my mind. It flipped my world upside down for that. Hello, welcome to the stream. Yes! It's crazy. Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, this one, okay, please. No one know I know the difference. I was just typing and it didn't come out, but this one was an actual shocker. Wish and wish blew my mind, flipped my world upside down. Must be nice. I know no teacher thought about correcting me. Imagine that being embarrassing, but doing it for apparently 8 years and no one has ever corrected you. So, okay, moving on. We're gonna play with some variables now. We're gonna go back to our IDE. Voila. to play with some variables, I'm going to first do an empty trash can. It's a really quick demo, right? So first, I'm going to call a variable. This is a horrible name for it. I'm going to call it var. It's a horrible name because in some languages, it's even a keyword, but oh well. It's going to, just for understanding sake, I'm going to call it var. I'm going to not do that. Final did better. I'm going to call it temp var, right? Now, this is not generally a claimed keyword in any language. So the temp var is equal to 1, right? If I do now type of temp var, you'll say it's int. But I can now, out of nowhere, I can go, I don't feel like it being a var anymore. I'm going to make temp var now equal to quotes. So now if you do type temp var, it's a string now. I'm like, I don't even want to be quotes anymore. I just want it to be the true value. If I do temp var, it's now a boolean. And that just shows the whole dynamic typing that's being handled at runtime. And that's really showing. And just have to understand that variable stores value, right? So for example, if I just type in temp var, what's stored in is true, right? If I go back and do like, you can see like it rewrote, right? So first I store a string in it. So if I do temp var, it'd be a string, but because I rewrote true into temp var, you can see now it's just true. We lost the data previously in there. That's why you want multiple variables in most occasions and times and work throughout them. Sorry, code. Back to lecture. This is essentially a college, high school, workshop level lecture. But yeah, we'll get to some fun stuff later. Don't worry in the track. But we do want to make sure our fundamentals are sound and solid before we get to all the fun stuff. Okay, so operators, Python basic operators. Now we're gonna learn about operators, and we're not talking about like a Navy SEAL operator or some like spy operator. We're talking about operators that we can apply data types on and with. And I'm gonna take a breath and drink some water. Okay, really quick. Let me get a mint too. I love mints, by the way. Mints are the best thing. I don't know if the other people feel about it, but mints are wonderful. So there we go. Okay, refresh. Operators. Went too far. So what are operators? Operators are essentially special symbols used to perform different type of operations on values and variables, right? Because variables are just a representation, a more permanent a more simple representation of values. So variable just represents the value, so it works on both values and variables. Essentially what the code does is whenever you see that variable, we'll just replace it with the value that's stored in the variable. So it supports a wide range of operators in Python. We have arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, membership operators, identity operators. We're not going to cover all of these because we're not going to need all of these. If you're ever interested, feel free to read up on all of them. And we're in a lot, again, programming / coding concepts, and a lot of this don't solely just apply to Python. Moving next, the one that you probably use the most out of, because a lot of Python operations, arithmetic is pretty common. So arithmetic operators you use to perform various math calculations. There's also more and so on. Yes, exactly. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, full division, modulus, exponential. Really quick, addition is addition. If you don't know what addition is, I don't know how to respond to that. But essentially allows you to take two operands, which essentially means just two different values, add them together, right? And they'll give you the addition, the sum of those two values. Subtraction, same thing, but subtracts. It gives you the difference. Multiplication, it gives you the product. Same thing. Division gives you the, I forgot what division gives you. Not the product, gives you doesn't give you the remainder. What does division give you? 5 plus 2 is 7. Congratulations. You passed the test. I don't know what I'm testing you for. With floor division, this is the unique one. It's basically division, except for it only returns integer parts, so it rounds down to the nearest integer, right? So it just scraps away any floating point and stuff. So it's actually a really way, if you need to stay in integer world, right? It's a really way to take a float and convert it to integer. 5 floor divided by 2 is 2, right? Yeah, that's because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. You floor it, it's 2. Division gives the quotient. There you go. Thank you. See, talking for a long time makes my brain hurt. Thank you, chat. Appreciate you like always. With modulus, this is a more computer science concept. You don't generally, yes, you guys are doing my job for me. You generally don't encounter this as much. Modulus just returns the remainder of the division of the near operand by the second. Exponentiation is just essentially doing exponents and just like square, cube, quad cube, whatever 4 is. It's squared cube, and whatever 4 times, or exponential by 4, raise it by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth. Just exponentials. Pretty simple concept. Arithmetic operators. Oh yeah, hands-on. In the interest of it's 4th of July, I want to keep this a bit shorter for everyone's sake. I'm going to do a really quick demo, but most of you guys know this already, right? So like, someone did this in chat, right? If I do 2 plus 5, oh, I meant to do 2 plus 5, right? You see that it's invalid syntax because I can't do a string and then add it with, I can't add is a special character, and I can't add that character equal to 5 because I can't set that. Can't use it as variable. But yeah, 2 plus 5, you get 7. I would do 7 minus 2, you get 5. If I do 5 divided by 2, you get 2.5. If I do 4 divided by 2, you get 2. If I do 2 to the 3rd power, which is that's another way of doing it. You can do star. You can also do caret. I do caret normally, but 2. Wait. What did I just do? I think I might have done an operation. I was not thinking properly. Wait, let me think. Let me see. Chat, help! I'm just kidding. This is not the right language. Does that not exist here? Or am I doing it wrong? Let me see. Did I come for that operator? I think it's just bitwise something. I think it's bitwise shift. Yeah, I know. I just realized that. Thank you for that. I forgot that this is Python. So in Python, it would just be 2 ***3. In some other languages, it uses the caret key. I've been typing a lot of. I don't know if you guys heard. It's called. It's by Mathematica. It's called. What's that language called? There's a language that does math. Power. This is actually from a library. It supposedly is more efficient, I think, from my recollection. But you can use Power. That comes from the math library, though, built-in library. In Bash also, yeah. Why operators equal doctor? What do you mean? Huh? Maybe I'm lost there, but yeah, okay, cool. Continue on. What else do we have? Mod division, right? So like 5 mod by 2, remainder is 1, and so on and so forth. That's it. Moving back to our slides. Both those operations. Oh. I'm gonna have to put you in jail time. Holy heck. That was a joke. Why operators is equivalent to doctors. Both those operations. You're so funny. Ha 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 ha. You gotta laugh. Oh, blast. Okay. I remember now. I'm gonna change up the music. Even though no one said anything, we're gonna switch up the beats. Now we're gonna move over to techno. Give you some new beats, some fresh beats. In my AP class, they use import, like import turtle, import math. Yeah. Does this already have the math module? Well, we're with the interpreter, right? So in the interpreter, a lot of things sometimes are automatically imported unless it's external. If I'm not wrong, which I hope I'm not, math part of the Python standard library. I think it's because it's not external library like Turtle. I'm pretty sure math is part of Python standard library, if I'm not wrong. But I could be so wrong. Yeah, okay, it is. So because it's part of Python standard library, it's the interpreter already has access to it. So you have to import anything that's really external. But if it's part of the standard library, most of the time it does have access to it, especially in the interpreter environment. Hey chat, if you are thinking there is only one way to add, you're wrong. Here is another print, and I'm gonna just take that away. I just got the joke. I know, right? That went over my head. Good joke, for sure. Okay, back to the coding world. Okay, operators. Moving on. Assignment operators. So these are just assigning, right? So we have our default one just equals. That just takes a value. Oh, what am I talking about? One equal takes a value and assign it to a variable. Start a variable, you assign a value to the variable. So it'll be value, then a variable. But then plus equal, what it does is it takes whatever's in the value already and it adds what you're assigning to it. So if I do 5 plus equals 6, it just does 5 plus 6 stores in the variable that was in 5. The same thing with minus equals, star equals, divide equals, mod equals, floor division equals, exponential equals. And then we have operations here, which is and. Those are bitwise operations, if I'm not wrong. And is bitwise and. That line looking thing is bitwise or. That caret is shift, bitwise shift. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. Always do that. Some stuff, I work in multiple languages, I get jumbled sometimes. Greater than equals essentially, oh no, I'm a huge liar. Caret might not be shift because the bottom ones are shift. Let me check what caret is. Caret in Python. Fun fact, always Google. Google's your friend. Most people, even if they're good or work really long time, there's always stuff you can Google. Let me just make sure what this operator is before I go crazy. Oh, it's bitwise exclusive OR. Take that back. Okay, rewind. So, caret is bitwise exclusive OR. The line is just OR, and if you works or bitwise OR, if you don't know what bitwise exclusive OR, it's a whole nother concept. Don't worry about it. And then you see the arrow equals just shifting it one to the left, or like you tell equal to how many shifts to the left, how many shifts to the right. It has to do with binary operation. Realistically, nothing in the second two row matters to you. If you're not a computer scientist, only the first row matters. Plus equal, minus equal, star equals, divide equals, mod equals, fully division equals, star equals. The middle one is a bitwise operation. The last one is also bitwise operation. You have bitwise and bitwise or bitwise XOR. And, then you have a left shift and right shift. Skipping that, don't worry about it. Okay, we're gonna do a quick example, quick look at this. I'm gonna do a quick clear at this point. So for example, I'm first gonna create a variable. I'm gonna call it temp var. Right? If you type that in, see it stays from last time, but I'm gonna first set temp var to let's say 5. And if I wanna do math and store the new thing in it, right? So I want to add set 5 to that, right? I can do temp var is equal plus equals, right? I want to add first and set it into temp var. So I'm going to do 5 plus equals 6. I said 5 by 5. So now if I do that, if I check temp var is now 10, right? Because it took it, added, and do that, and then it's really similar for the rest of the operators, so I'm not going to go through each one. Because, yeah. Moving on, comparison operators used to compare values, right? So you have equals equal, your standard equal. I should write these out like on all my slides. Not equal, so I don't make a mistake again. Less than, greater than equal, less than equal. Pretty common things, and what this does is it returns a Boolean value. Remember, it's just the evaluation of true or false, which is really important. Really quick look at it, right? So if I did is 10 equal to 10. 10 is definitely equal to 10. Is 10 not equal to 10? This makes no sense, right? It's definitely false. 10 has to be is equal to 10. If I do temp var is equal to 10, it is, because the value in temp var is 10. If I do temp var and do not equal to 10, it will say it's false because the value in temp var is 10. If I do temp var is equal to 54, it's not, because the value in temp var is 10. Moving on today. If you have a question, please feel free to stop. That's one point I'm always okay with taking more time on. With logical operators, I just did this. Why did that? Wait, what did I do? Comparison. Why is my logical and comparison operator the same side? Don't worry about logical operators. We'll update it on next time. I'm going to go over expressions real quick. So expressions is kind of what we've been writing, but expression can grow really longer. So expressions are just a combination of values, variables, operators, and function calls that evaluates a single value, right? For example, I can write an expression like temp var is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7, right? That side on the right hand side of that equal sign is the expression, and that will evaluate one value, then that will get stored in the left hand side, which is the variable. An expression can be a simple value, or it can be more complex, like we described, right? Expression can technically just be one value. So like if I do temp var is equal to 54, 54 is technically the expression, which then is stored as a value into temp var. The expression I use extensively in Python and forms the basis of many Python statements and constructs. Used in interactive mode when working with Python's REPL, which essentially read a value of print loop shell, which is essentially just when you do Python 3, it's opening a rep shell. So it allows you to interact directly with the interpreter live. Then we have expression to determine, enter directly into the shell. We've been doing a lot of that. You kind of see it in action. An expression always has been a right-hand side assignment operator, right? So left-hand side in your variable, you put an equal sign, and expression always has been the right-hand side of it, which we kind of see. If you do on the left-hand side, you get an error because you cannot overwrite like 5 to be something else. You can overwrite a variable, but not some keywords. Again, hands-on expressions. This is also really quick. So for example, temp var, everything on top is expression, but this is also equally expression, right? doing this plus divided by 4. That's equally expression. And I did equals, oops, this, right? So the expression evaluates one number. That value then gets stored in the variable. So if I knew the temp bar, I have to answer that. That was the expression. Cool. Amazing. Wonderful. Moving back to the slide deck. Okay. Outputting and printing. This is our last concept for the day before we move over to our Q&A session. And in the Q&A session, feel free to ask me about anything. For printing, we have a few ways of printing that slowly evolved, right? With our default, which is just print hello world. You put print and you give it a string. You can print anything like that. And then anything that's less than Python 2.6 plus, which you really should not be on realistically because it's really insecure, with something called formatting with the percentage operator, which you see in other low-level languages. And Python made it easier in the later languages, why there's other ways of doing that. But what you would do is you would tell it like percentage %s, it's saying a string goes here, percentage data goes here. You can see you write print and you put in string everything that's in regular text, and then to insert a variable, you just do %, the type of variable it is, and then at the end, you will close out the string, then you just do another % type, and then you do a parentheses, and you put all the variables in there. And the variable type that's in there has to match the variable type declare within the string. Kind of like what you see right here. And then you have what we call string, a formatting string with dot format. This is after we're like, oh yeah, that's so stupid. Not stupid. That's really hard and not easy to use. We came up with dot format, which is you just write your string. Where you put, oops, there should not be an F there. That's a typo. I corrected. And when I send this out, but you just write your string and then you do dot format. You leave empty brackets at where variable should go. So now you don't have to tell exactly what type of variable goes there. You just write your string. You leave empty curly braces, not brackets, in places where you want variable to go. In the end of the string, do the dot format, and you place your variable in the parentheses. It'll place it directly in order of your curly braces and in order of the list in format. The next one, really final, next couple. But the newest one, sorry, gonna go back real quick. That only works on 2.6 and above. So any of the legacy printing method works on all the newer version. But then we get to 3.6, we added what we call F strings. F strings are really a lot more powerful. They're really a lot easier to read and use, right? And Python is all about readability. So all you have to do is write your print statement. You put F in front of the string, it now becomes F string, which means you can just put directly curly braces in there and put the variable directly in the curly braces, and it knows to just fill it in. Few things real quick. For you use regular print, you can do something called concatenation or concatenating. You can take strings and concatenate with other strings, with variables that are strings. For example, you can see there we have name, we concatenated with the actual name variable, then we concatenated with the age variable. But then we do something called typecasting, right? We typecast age, which is probably a number, into a string, and then concatenate. Concatenate only works on strings. You cannot concatenate on things that are not string. But you can always typecast something to a string, which we'll talk about later. Which then will allow you to do concatenation, the string concatenation. We have printing multiple values using multiple assignments with a print function, right? So you can do print string comma. With commas in print, they will allow you to insert variables of even different types, and will then join together. The thing with commas, it also automatically places a space for you. So if you do name, colon, you don't want to put the space there, unlike when you do string concatenation. String concatenation just takes a string and joins it together. For printing of multiple variables, what it actually does is it puts that string out, and then the comma automatically generates space there, and then you continue building it out with the different variables and values. Let's get handled on printing. Let's go here, and then I'm gonna do a quick trash everything. Okay, cool. So we're gonna first do this. So I'm gonna write a regular print statement, so I can print our well-known string hello world. The first thing we do in every language, there you go. But if you see, if I take out the string, right? Oh, forgot I cannot use arrow. If I take out the string, I just print hello world. It's gonna say, oh, can't do that because print only prints out strings. So if I want to do this in string concatenation, I can do quote hello world. Well, hello is its own string. I can concatenate it with world. And you can see I'm not going to add any space because concatenation just joins the two strings, doesn't actually add any space in between. You can see it becomes one word. But if I do the multi-variable print, which I do like hello, and I use a comma to separate the variables, right? Even though they're both string, but because I use the comma, Python will automatically, when they join them, add a space there, and you still get hello world with a space in between. And now we're going to throw in, so I'm going to throw in, for example, what we had before, which is temp bar, which I think is at like 14.2, right? You can see with comma, I can directly put it there. If I try to do with concatenation and just add temp bar, I get an error. So you cannot concatenate, string concatenation with thing. Yes. Yeah. Dot comma adds a space. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Going back to what I was saying. But if I typecast it, so we're gonna go with typecasting now live. Typecasting essentially is when you write out the different type values. So there's like, you know how we wrote set out? Technically, you can typecast. I'm saying I just enclose the variable you're trying to typecast with the type you want to cast it to. So I'm gonna cast it to a string, and that will now cast that to a string. So you can do, for example, if I do str, this is casting for a string. I can do set, right? This is casting to a set. List is casting to a list, and so on and so forth, right? I think it's dict is for dictionary. We have int for integers. I think you have to type out the whole float if you want to typecast to a float, float, and so on and so forth. Those are you to do typecasting. Yeah, there's a delay in stream sometimes. It's pretty funny. Yes, that is super correct. Okay. Yeah, but oh yeah. So the other ways, right? So in I can't clear. I keep forgetting. This is not bash out. So in anything for 2.6, you had print, and you can do this. So I can do print string quote s. I'm telling it's a string object. I'm gonna then do mod, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do string hello, right? This just looks unreadable. And if I do that, it would still print out hello. It's saying take hello, put it at where quote string is, fill in with that. So then we get format string, which came out for 2.6 and above. So we can do print, and then we can do like name, and then I can do this. Yeah, and then I can do closing, and then I do format. So it's saying format essentially goes through and look at all the empty braces and replace it in the same order of the things in the format parentheses. So I'm going to do quote Kev, and then I'm going to end this, and you can see that name Kev got filled in. And then f string is the newest one, which is you put f here, and you no longer need to do this whole format thing, which makes it harder to read. You're allowed to directly just put the variable in here. So I don't have a variable, so I'm just going to put the value in here, which I could have just left it, right? But oops. Whoa, what did I do wrong? Expecting, f string expecting. Why did it yell at me? I got to put this in this. There we go. So it's because it thought I closed out the string. So that's why sometimes you have two, you have double quotes, single quotes. But yeah, okay, cool. That's everything for printing. And I think we are done. Questions? Any questions in chat? And we might call it here for today. And next time we'll pick up by actually start covering some basic of actual applications. And we'll probably write some functions, solve some basic problems, logical problems, and explore control flow as well as other Python things. But before that, any questions from today's lesson or today's workshop for part 1? Thank you. Appreciate that. Makes me wonderfully happy. For sure. I hope everything made sense. You got to learn something today. If you ever have complaints, let me know. Love to hear complaints. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining me. I had fun teaching today. What was the last year we got? Oh, the last year was just because, for answering this question, is because I wrote f string, right? F string looks for the curly bracelet, but because I usually, for f string, you put in variables, you don't actually put the string itself. It got confused. So that's why, but you swap it to single quote and knows that they're differentiated, right? So I use double quotes for the f string, I use single quote for the actual string variable, and it fixes itself. But normally for f string, if you just put in the actual variable, it'll work fine. Thank you. I appreciate this comment. Thank you for joining me. And wait, don't leave if you left. We will be back at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern time for part 2 tomorrow. I would love to see everyone back here again. And hope everyone have a great rest of your day. But we're definitely not done. I have this pulled up today. Right after me, please do stick around if you are not going to bed yet, because I know yesterday was a bit later. So we're in day 2, right? Please do stick around for right after me. We have schedule mini event. Oh, I lied. This is a bit far. At 5 a.m. There's nothing after me. Go to bed. Take care. And I will see you tomorrow. Please do join me tomorrow for Python part 2. Same time, same place. Right now, have a good rest and enjoy your day. Take care. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. And here's the outro. Bye.